GM, this is Morning Markets. It is Monday, the 22nd of September. So, everything is crashing. Everyone's getting liquidated. Should we panic? Answer, of course, is no. Because what has happened here? Well, as I mentioned on the weekly ledger, we had some key levels. Firstly, we had this consolidation low here. Secondly, you have the round number of 115, 120, and 110. Thirdly, you had the deribit options levels, which expire on Friday that I mentioned, and 115K was the key level to remain above. And as I said, if you lose that level, which I mentioned was probably going to happen Monday or Tuesday if it was going to happen, then that can lead to a big volatile move down. And it would have been the same if we had pushed above 120 early on in the week, because these were the options levels. 115 was a big call wall, and that is a level which we have now lost. So all of that notional value is now underwater. So what happens as soon as you get below 115K? Lots of traders with options that expire this Friday, they have to cover, they have to short, they have to hedge their positions so that they don't go into extreme losses. So from here, we've met 112K, which was a small level, but really the big level is 110K, which we then should not lose, and that should hold on any further downside. Of course, below that you got 108. But it's super simple. We've lost 115. Yes, it's on a Monday, and typically Mondays can be unreliable, but that signal will be shown to us if we do see a big reclaim, maybe today or tomorrow. However, from what it looks like, we've lost the key level of 115K. We've lost the value area low. When you go to the lower time frames on the 4-hour chart, you could see we got the 4-hour close below, and then that led to this big flush. So my swing trade is of course stopped out there, so fully exited that position, now flat and sitting on my hands. That was still the trade to make 10 times out of 10. Once your system gives you your confirmations and your rules and you know it's profitable over time, not every trade's going to win. So you have to take it as it comes, and potentially the next setup is what's going to be the winner. As I mentioned in, I believe, the weekly or the monthly outlook, if this trade loses, then it could just set up the next trade to be more likely to win. If we do again see, let's say, the bands go red here on the daily, and then later on, as we head deeper into Q4, they then flip green again. So they'd go red, and then the crossover could happen again later on, and that could actually be the move that takes you up towards 120K. Because as I said, even if bearish, we could retest this level and still go down and form a whole distribution here. Alternatively, of course, this could set up a breakdown, which is another reason why I have that stop loss, have that invalidation, because now we've lost the value area low. We've got a bearish retest here of the POC. This could really just continue the downtrend. Could bounce on 110K and eventually lose it and have to make actually new lows. In September, it's been pretty much up only, as I mentioned. You got September the 1st here. Price has only gone up. So it's fairly normal to see a pullback, especially in a month which typically doesn't return well on Bitcoin or stocks. Mentioned this in the monthly outlook, so it's no surprise to see Bitcoin break down here, just like it would have been no surprise to see Bitcoin break up from there. You just play it level by level. And now, potentially, we could be continuing the downtrend since we are backtesting that POC. It's yet to be seen now whether we can form some sort of higher low here around 110K, or whether we do need to break down lower as we head into October and those Q4 months for a further dip. So those are really the two paths from here. No need to guess a bottom today. B reversals are very unlikely. Let the market play out. That's had a big liquidation there. It's going to take time to digest, rebuild positions, because anyone who longed in this consolidation, all of the FOMC longs that built up, they're now underwater and have to close. It's very unlikely to just V reverse today into it. We might. Maybe Monday set a huge trap and we're going to go blast off. That would be great. And we can get long on the reclaim there. Or we can just wait, let the market play out and do what it's most likely to do is one of these two paths. And we either get long again on the reclaim in the green path, or we can continue sitting on our hands if the red path does play out. Because, as I said, V reversal is unlikely because as soon as you get back above here, all of these longs will then exit at break even, which leads to a lower high and a path like this. So that's why it's good to just sit on your hands, let Monday play out today. Big liquidation move. You're going to have people longing, you're going to have people shorting, all in this area after the volatility has taken place, which is typically the worst place to take a position because this 112.5k level is very likely to get retested. Whether we go up, it'll probably get retested. Whether we go down, it'll probably get retested. And you're just asking to get whipsawed both directions here. There's no edge here after everyone's been liquidated. You now have to just let the market play out for a few hours, potentially even a few days. But as I said, we had low volatility last week. It was setting up for a volatility expansion. Now that doesn't mean expansion has to go up. Instead, we've seen the expansion go down in this big move. So again, it should be no surprise to see this move. We've lost the value area low. The POC acted as a rejection point, and now we need to wait and see more price action, more data to make our decision from here. Are we going to see a higher low form at 110, or are we potentially going to go into downtrend continuation? Because when we look at the weekly, as I've been mentioning in the weekly outlooks and monthly outlooks, this potentially is just a lower high. If we get a fresh chart up here, can never find a fresh chart, but this one is interesting. As I said, you've got these key events that top the market. Trump's inauguration, reciprocal tariffs bottomed the market. Now heading into September, which typically is choppy. As I mentioned, you get a down move and an up move. So far, we've only had an up move. So now we're just getting the down move. Summer low is still intact at 98.2. And as I said, September low typically doesn't get retested in these bull market years. You have this September low here. Never got tested again before rallying higher. You have this September low here as well. Of course, never got tested again, rallied higher. And of course, you have the summer low as well, which is actually around here. June. On some charts, this wick goes actually deeper. It just depends if you're on futures or spot. It was a huge move back then, I remember. So as you can see, you've got this clear theme of the September low holding, but September's not in yet. So at the moment, we don't know where the low is going to be. Possibly the low is in already, but we can't confirm that yet. The only thing we can confirm is that the summer low, so 98.2, just as we had last year, 48.7, and the year before, around 24.8. That should hold as your summer low if we are going to see a bullish Q4. So that is now your next ultimate invalidation until we get the September low, which could be put in maybe already on the 1st or lower. I'm not sure. But that's something interesting to look at as we pull back in September and we see where this chart's going to finish up for the month. Summer low should stay intact if we want a Q4 rally, and really the September low as well. So that can confluence with whether we build a higher low or whether we sweep here in September. So that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. But what I wanted to do was actually check the high time frame chart and show you guys how Look, let's get a fresh chart. It's Coinbase. There we go, there's a fresh chart. I mentioned in the September outlook that anything below 120k on the weekly chart is not yet bullish. It could just be a lower high. It's only once we close above 120, which is something price has been unable to do on the weekly, do we flip bullish on this time frame. Now, as I said, does that mean you can't take trades before then? Of course not, because lower time frames, they lead into your higher time frames. And on the daily, there were signals with the bands flipping green, with price breaking above this consolidation here, that we could potentially at least make a move to 120. But that hasn't happened yet, and that's okay. We just assess the chart and react to the new data. So this is what you have to look at here. This potentially could be a lower high, and that's why I say you could now just see the downtrend path, and we had to actually go lower. And from there, you want to just watch your summer low. Does this stay intact or not? And of course, if we can build a higher low and reclaim 120, that's then bullish on the weekly. And on the daily, you will of course get an earlier signal with the bands crossing red first and then crossing back green somewhere around this point over here. And that's when you can then get long again on another setup if you get that higher low scenario. And it's really simple. I can show you previous examples of this pattern. So if we go to last summer, let's take off these bands for now. As you can see, bands go green. You get a pump into Trump's speech at Bitcoin Nashville, Bitcoin conference. Price then dumps. You then get another green bands, fakes out. And then the next time the bands go green, that is your signal to get long for the majority of this rally. So sometimes you do see that fake out, something I mentioned to look for in September. But that's okay. That now gives us more data where we can say, okay, let's sit on our hands while the bands are red. Could get further downside. If we build a higher low, that's great. We can get long the next time the bands flip green on the daily. Or if we get a lower low even, we could get some really nice entries for longer term bags. And then again, look for the bands to go green as our next signal with that as our invalidation. So that's what to look for from here. If the daily closes anywhere around here and continues chopping, these bands will likely go red, barring, of course, this absolutely reversing today or tomorrow and we get that Monday fake out. But till then, play the charts as they come. This is September. We've had up only. We're now getting a pullback. And on the weekly, as I said, it's still not high time frame bullish until 120k is reclaimed. So the only thing is now we're also losing the daily bullish triggers, which is those bands. Therefore, we need to just sit on our hands and wait it out from here. And even when we go to something like the monthly, it's now actually not shaping up very nicely because this close that I mentioned, it was good to stay above because that could lead to the highs getting at least tested. We've now rejected it so far. So it's really a key level to reclaim this month. I'd say if September closes below it, it probably sets up for potentially even more chop in August and potentially we move higher in November, December, January even. Because this is a failure to reach the highs as it stands with a long wick. So really keeping an eye on this chart. September could be doing the classic where it's a worst performing month for Bitcoin on average. So sitting on our hands is the best move here now that we've seen this flush and that the daily triggers that were bullish have all been invalidated. So that's what I'm looking for. Let's see if we take a volume profile from all of this. Is there anything interesting from this high over here? So these could provide some levels. We saw the POC of that actually act as resistance. So it's similar to the volume profile before, but again, starting to lose the lower end of all of the trading that's been done within this distribution slash range that we've seen here. And that, of course, is not going to be a good sign if we start closing below and accepting below these levels. Really need to see price reclaim above 115.9 pretty swiftly, get back into this consolidation and make new highs and set this up as a trap if we are going to be bullish in the immediate short term. So a lot of work to do for bulls. If we can't get that immediate reclaim, then expect more chop, expect more bleed and downside as we've had a big emotional day. Traders are going to be losing their minds, and it's not a day to get heavily positioned long or short because they're likely to get wrecked both ways. So why have we seen this Bitcoin move? Very simple. What have we got here? We've got gold. It's breaking out. If we flick to the daily chart here, as you can see, it's attempted a breakout this morning, and when gold breaks out, you guys know by now, that is not good for BTC. You don't want to see gold breaking out if you want immediate continuation higher in Bitcoin. Now, overall, is it good if gold is breaking out for Bitcoin? Yes, because the higher gold goes, the higher Bitcoin goes, high time frame. But they have different cause and effect paths. When gold moves higher, Bitcoin consolidates. When Bitcoin consolidates, that is then when you can see this kind of bleeding coming back into support as gold breaks out to new highs. And it's only when gold starts consolidating itself that Bitcoin is allowed to have its own respective run. So if this is going to continue breaking out, that's going to set up for more chop, more bleed, more consolidation on Bitcoin. So watch today's daily close carefully. Do we close above this high? That's going to set up for continuation higher on gold. It's going to set up for trend higher. Or do we reject it? If we reject it and close below, that could potentially set up a reversal and more consolidation and chop on gold, which will actually allow Bitcoin to potentially have some more strength here. So keep an eye on gold. If it closes higher with a daily breakout today, that's probably going to continue further, leading to Bitcoin weakness. If it can't close above and break out cleanly and rejects, then you could see strength returning back to BTC. So that's why we've seen the move happen. Attention is now flowing back into gold again. It's not time yet so far for Bitcoin. That could change, but when we look at stocks as well, they have had a consolidation move so far today, trading within Friday's candle, while Bitcoin has actually broken down. So again, Bitcoin is being dictated mostly by gold flows as it stands. And of course, we got the DXY, the dollar, which has been rallying since FOMC, which further sets up that potential risk-off move that we've seen here. But overall, we are still pulling back into support. Wouldn't get extremely bearish here until we lose 110k. As I mentioned on this chart here, that's the next Deribit options level. That's been the next big level over and over. 110k was resistance, couldn't get above it, resistance, couldn't get above it, resistance, couldn't get above it, resistance, then we blasted through. And now it briefly acted as support. We had a fake out below and it acted as support. And you want to see that hold now, especially since it's a big cool wall for OPEX. And that's okay. Bitcoin can hold it, build a higher low. Maybe gold tops out later on in the coming weeks, which allows Bitcoin to run. Keep an eye on that. But until then, if gold keeps trending higher, potentially now, weekly time frame could be forming a lower high here with a reversal. Need to watch how, of course, this week closes. It's only just begun. So again, let Monday play out. Let Tuesday play out. Let's see what the data shows. But potentially, if we start losing these bands, then we can look to a deeper move into the hundreds where we simply look for the summer low to hold as our invalidation on higher time frame setup. So that's the play for Bitcoin. If we look at alts quickly, so we have Ethereum. It has broken down from its compression pattern. If we actually pull up the chart here, I should have that pattern drawn out. So yes, we've broken down. As I said, you're going to see volatility. Volatility was compressing. Volatility is then more likely to expand, and we got that expansion. Again, it doesn't have to be to the upside. Volatility expansions can be to the downside. It's taken out a bunch of longs. It's retested this daily market structure over here in this high time frame SR level. That's where it's found support so far. So it's yet to be seen. Can this now just continue ranging between these levels? That's all you want to see on ETH here, is price to continue holding up between these levels, as that's going to set up for a potential breakout. And of course, if we lose this level, then we start to build a range between these two levels. So that's key to watch here. You want to see this overall high time frame SR hold. As long as Ethereum can hold between here, it's actually setting up a nice consolidation for potentially a move higher. It's only once you start closing below today's low, closing below this high time frame SR, that it opens up a move to ranging below there, even if later on it ends up being bullish. So Ethereum looks pretty decent here at range lows. So as long as it can hold up, it's in a compression and basing, building energy for a potential move later on. When we look at Solana, what we are seeing here is the flush into that gap that I mentioned on the weekly outlook. So the gap was over here. We've now filled it in completely. So this is really where Solana needs to bounce, if it is going to bounce. Otherwise, it risks falling back inside some of these previous levels. This 206 level is the weekly low of this impulse candle here. Retracing all of that so quickly would of course not be a bullish sign. If we do have to start bleeding lower, then we're probably going for a deeper flush in September and potentially beginning of October. And if we're not going to see that, then this is the gap that has to hold. We have to now see a decent reaction and price start to build back up within this consolidation. That will set up a move for higher and make this a trap. But again, if we start going below this level today, tomorrow, closing below, then sets up for a deeper bleed and chop as we head into late September, beginning of October. And it's very simple. What happened here? Well, I mentioned to you guys, we have a consolidation on Sol. Wait for the 4-hour breakout before looking to lower timeframes for longs for continuation higher. We didn't get that. We got a fake out. That's then led to bleeding and chop, and we've now broken down from the consolidation. So we've expanded lower. Volatility got crushed. Longs and shorts, both smart money accumulated and distributed here, and the distribution simply won. So now you need to see where price can find support. Is it within this gap? Really just need to let today play out and see if it can chop around, form a higher low, retest, or if we're actually going to continue breaking down. One thing I mentioned in the Discord is that you don't need to, of course, catch in a falling knife today because price rarely V reverses. That rarely happens. You more than often get a double bottom, or you get a sweep, or you get a failure to return. You rarely get this setup. There's no need to FOMO in today into any longs. If price is going to bottom out, then just let it form one of those reversal patterns. As I said, that can be a high low, that can be a sweep or a double bottom. It doesn't matter. You can get long then on the reclaim anywhere in that area once you've had confirmation that price is bottoming. Even after a sweep, you can get long after the confirmation rather than risking your portfolio for a potential continuation lower before bottoming out. Don't get wrecked catching bottoms, catching falling knives, guessing where the market's going to bottom, telling it what to do. Markets don't know you exist. Wait for price confirmation for your setups. Trade it like a systematic trader. That's going to be how you make the most money in trading, because guessing is no better than gambling. May as well go on roulette. So that's all we have to do from now is have patience, let the market play out a little bit, let some candles form. If we check total 3 quickly, similar move. We've broken down back into this consolidation. So again, you don't really want to see price go much lower than this. You do want to see one of those reversal patterns now form on your altcoins since we filled in this gap. Because we built this consolidation for such a long period of time that markets should now break out. Okay, we've had a dip and wreck some over leveraged longs. That's fine if we confirm it as a bottom and continue on higher. But it's not fine if we now start downtrending and going back into this consolidation, because that again gives everyone the chance to reaccumulate at these low entries. It allows dumb money who missed this move to get on board and long. And that's not a bullish signal. That's a show of weakness, not a show of strength. Therefore, very key to watch. This compression should lead to upside if this wasn't just a trap. Therefore, you want to see this bottom out this week, really, with that high low, or of course, sweep. And ideally around this gap. You don't want to see too much lower on your altcoins. Otherwise, we're going to have to set up a lengthier reaccumulation where we potentially have to chop for longer and we go later on in the year. So that's what I'm seeing. If we look at Bitcoin dominance briefly. So I said this week, you're probably going to see, and last week, you're probably going to see Bitcoin dominance strong. And we've seen so far it's been green and bouncing within this consolidation. But overall, in a downtrend, you're still seeing alts take precedence. So watch that carefully. If we get more downside, you're probably going to see this hold strong. And if it doesn't, if you're actually seeing altcoins hold up stronger, well, that tells you where the strength is for the next potential move. And perhaps we see further and further Bitcoin weakness. That's yet to be seen. But another thing that I want to do is check out the data. So if we look at open interest, Bitcoin, and we'll get the altcoin open interest up. So again, I shared this in one of the morning market videos last week. If we get everything excluding Bitcoin, so open interest, we did have this big build up that I mentioned. And we've now probably seen it get wiped. Let's have a look. So yeah, I mentioned exactly how altcoins since FOMC it was, and you can even just take it since this low here. Altcoin open interest was up around 22%, 26% to the highs, whereas Bitcoin was up just 9%, and Bitcoin open interest was up 11%. So you saw a lot of leverage coming into altcoins. This is both longs and shorts opening. This is open interest, so it's based on the futures market. And that's why you've seen this flush here. I mentioned how people were potentially not taking profits on their altcoins as it was holding up strong despite Bitcoin pulling back yesterday. Alts were still at their highs in terms of open interest. And that's why we've then seen this flush from 22 now down to 10%. And price is up 4%. So you're just seeing longs who got over leveraged get flushed out here. You had some really nice moves that we caught across Solana, across Hype. You had ETH obviously doing an amazing move. Pretty natural to see some longs get flushed if they didn't take profits at all the signs there were to take profits. Bitcoin, yes, it had the chance to take over, but it didn't want it. So far, gold's actually taken over, so we've seen this pullback, and that's led to this flush. So from here, you now want to see a healthy pullback in open interest, healthy pullback in Bitcoin open interest, and really then see where this chart bottoms out. You don't want to see positions get built up again too rapidly as we're pulling back. as that can signal over leverage. You want to see as price pulls back, open interest reduces further and further. So far, so good. Seeing positioning is closing after this down move. Longs are getting flushed, which is a good sign, which means people aren't still holding on and long in the dips. So let today play out. It is a Monday. Mondays can always have big moves, perhaps even unpredictable moves that are later on setting a trap. Who knows? It's yet to be seen, but no need to FOMO into any falling knives. Let the market play out. And really, daily is now cautious. Weekly time frame remains neutral / bearish since we are forming that lower high on Bitcoin. So now need to wait for our next daily confirmation that, in fact, Bitcoin is ready to rally. But until then, let the charts play out and let price bottom and go wherever it's going to go.